The number one thing people pack for Alaska cruises is the thing that sits unused in their cabin all week. And it's not just you, nearly everyone does it their first time. I did too. Because what throws people off in Alaska is how different the trip feels once it actually starts, and the days don't play out the way you picture them when you're packing at home. And meanwhile, the people having the best time, they pack 3 specific things most people don't even think to bring. So before you fill your suitcase with stuff that's going to weigh you down and never leave your room, let me show you what actually matters. Hey y'all, this video is not a checklist and it's not about packing more stuff. It's about packing in a way that lets you stop thinking about it once the trip begins. Because Alaska days change fast and the goal isn't to be over prepared, it's to be adaptable without carrying your whole closet around because you want to be focused on the experience, not second guessing what's in your bag. Oh, and if we haven't met yet, I'm Evan from Family at Sea. If this is your first time watching my channel, I'm glad you're here. And well, if you've been here a while, you already know how much I appreciate you. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. Before we dive in, just a quick heads up. Some of the links down below in the description are affiliate links. So if you decide to buy something through them, I may earn a small commission at no extra cost to you. But just so you know, I'll never recommend gear I don't personally use or trust. Everything I'm sharing in this video is stuff I've either brought to Alaska myself or genuinely believe will make your cruise better. So if you do use those links to support the channel, I truly appreciate it. All right, let's get into it. When you head off the ship in Alaska, there's usually one bag you grab without even thinking about it. It's the bag that goes to ports, excursions, and anywhere you'll be out for a few hours. And a portable power bank is one of those 3 things most people don't even think to bring, but it earns a spot in there fast. Between photos, maps, tickets, and colder temperatures draining batteries quicker than normal, phones don't last all day, and having backup power means you're not watching the battery percentage instead of enjoying where you are. Which is why I always bring one of these. I've tested over a dozen of these things, and this is the one that I keep coming back to. It's lightweight, it slips easily in your pocket or day bag, and it plugs right into the wall. So you don't need a separate cord and charging block because, well, it's all right there for you. And it also has built-in connectors for both old school iPhones as well as more modern phones and Android phones, which means one less thing to remember and one less thing to forget in the hotel. It's simple, compact, and best of all, these cost less than $30. A waterproof pouch probably isn't the first thing you think about when packing for Alaska, but it ends up doing a lot of the quiet work. And I'm not talking about a tiny phone sleeve with a plastic window. This is the one that I bring, and it's big enough for a phone, passports, cash, and cards, so everything important stays together and stays dry. Alaska has a way of throwing mist, drizzle, or boat spray at you when you least expect it. So I toss this in my bag or over my shoulder, and I forget about it until the exact moment I'm really glad I brought it. There's a lot you'll see in Alaska with the naked eye, but there's even more you'll miss if you don't have a good pair of binoculars. You'll catch movement in the distance and then realize you can't really see it. And that's where binoculars earn their keep. These don't need to be bulky or expensive. I carry a lightweight pair like these that fit easily in a backpack or around my neck, and every time I bring them, I end up using them. There's just something about being able to zoom in and really take in the details that makes the whole experience feel even more real. Sunscreen still matters in Alaska, even though most people don't think to bring it. Between the long daylight hours, reflections off water and glaciers, and spending more time outside than you expect, it's easy to get burned without even realizing it. So I keep a small tube like this in my bag so it's always there when I need it, especially for face, neck, and hands. It's one of those things you won't think about until the damage is already done, and by then it's too late. Sunglasses with polarized lenses might not sound like an Alaska essential, but they're one of those things people usually realize they should have brought once they're already there. Between water, snow, and glaciers, glare shows up everywhere, even on cloudy days. Now, personally, I love Maui Jim's sunglasses. They're lightweight, they're strong enough to throw in the bag without breaking, and they've got really high quality lenses, but it really doesn't matter what. You don't need to get name brand sunglasses. Just get something that has polarization because it's going to help cut through that reflection so you can actually see what's in front of you instead of squinting the whole time. They also make whale spotting, glacier viewing, and time out on deck a lot more comfortable. So I keep mine in my bag and end up using them way more than I ever expect to. When you're packing for Alaska, having the right luggage isn't just helpful, it's essential. You're dealing with bulky layers, heavier clothes, and unpredictable weather. So you need something that's tough enough to handle the extra weight, smooth enough to roll through airports and ship terminals, and organized enough to make your life easier when you're living out of it for a week. I've tried a lot of luggage over the years trying to find something that actually holds up to real travel. Because here's the reality, most sets either look great but don't handle heavier packing well, or they're durable but heavy and not practical. But eventually, I landed on the luggage that I use now, which is from Level 8, and it's been a really solid fit for the way I travel. Guys, this is the luminous textured large bag in navy blue. This the one that I grabbed for Alaska cruises. It's big enough for bulkier layers and heavier clothing without feeling oversized or hard to control, which matters when cold weather gear starts adding up. The wheels are smooth and quiet even when the bag is loaded down, so whether you're at airports, on shuttles, uneven sidewalks, or long piers, it rolls the way you expect it to without fighting you the whole way. The shell is polycarbonate with a textured finish that hides scuffs well, and after multiple trips, it still looks noticeably better than a lot of bags I've owned that show wear almost immediately. There's also a 20-inch, which is what this is, and a 24-inch that, depending on what my needs are for any given trip, I'll use one or both of those in addition to the larger bag. But inside, the layout is simple and practical with compression straps that hold everything in place, and the space is easy to work with when you're packing jackets, rain gear, and layers. Now, here's the truth. I've used more expensive luggage from bigger name brands, and honestly, these have held up just as well, but without the inflated price. They're durable, easy to travel with, and don't add friction to the trip, which is exactly what I want when everything I need is inside them. If you're interested in checking these out, I'll put links below where you can grab them on Amazon or directly through Level 8's website. And if you do order direct from their site, you can use the code FAMILY@SEA to get an extra 10% off. Wet feet will ruin an Alaska day faster than almost anything. And even when it's not raining, you're dealing with puddles, mist, wet docks, and muddy trails, which is why I always pack waterproof shoes. This is not the item where you try to save a few bucks. A good pair of waterproof shoes keeps your feet dry no matter what you're walking through and stays comfortable all day in port. They don't need to be heavy or bulky, but they need to be built for real weather. If this is your first Alaska cruise, you'll be really glad you packed these the first time you step off the ship. If you've never worn merino wool socks, Alaska is the place to start. Cotton socks are fine until they get wet, and once that happens, your feet stays cold all day, but merino wool handles moisture way better. They stay warm even when damp, they dry faster, and they don't hold odor the same way cotton does, which matters in a small cabin. I've tried a lot of different brands of merino wool. I used to think all merino wool is created equal and you're really just paying for a brand name, but that was until I discovered Unbound Merino. But now that I've discovered them, I can't imagine ever buying a different brand of merino wool because the products they make are just such a higher quality and they're worth every penny. Now, speaking of merino wool, this is one item I bring on every Alaska cruise and I wear it all winter at home. This thing is the MVP of layering. It's warm without being bulky, so I can wear it under a rain jacket or over a thermal base without feeling like I'm stuffed into my own clothes. It breathes well, doesn't trap moisture, and because it's merino, it doesn't start smelling funky after one wear, which matters when you're trying to pack light. And I actually have two of these that are designed to work at different temperatures depending on how cold it's going to be outside. They also dry faster than fleece or cotton if it gets damp, and looks nice enough to wear out to dinner on board if you don't feel like changing. Alaska in the summer isn't always freezing, but when you're standing still on a glacier or out in a windy boat, the cold hits fast. And that's where thermal underwear comes in. I bring a lightweight set like these with top and bottom, and they add warmth without bulk or itchiness. They sit comfortably under regular clothes and make cold mornings, windy decks, or longer excursions way more manageable. You're not going to need these every day, but when you do, you'll be glad they're there. They take up very little space in your suitcase and easily justify the cost. The waterproof jacket isn't optional on an Alaska cruise. You need something like this that actually keeps water out, blocks wind, and still leaves room to layer underneath. This isn't the place for a fashion raincoat or flimsy windbreaker. You want real protection that holds up on long excursions, boat rides, or those misty port days that come out of nowhere. I look for one that's lightweight but durable, with a hood that stays put when the wind picks up and packs down small. Most people remember a rain jacket and forget about their legs, but that's how you end up soaked from the knees down, walking around port in heavy jeans. Fortunately, waterproof pants fix that before it becomes a problem. Pants like these slip right over whatever you're already wearing and keep your legs dry whether you're hiking, on a boat, or dealing with a steady drizzle in town. They're lightweight, packed down small, and take up almost no space, but they make a huge difference on wet days. Even if you only wear them once, they're worth bringing. Another thing I never cruise without anymore is a cruise-approved power hub. Most cabins just don't have enough outlets, and Alaska trips usually mean more devices than normal, but the tricky part is that not all power strips are allowed, and some cruise lines have tightened the rules significantly. But after a lot of trial and error, this is what I bring now. It's been compliant on every cruise line I've sailed because it has no traditional outlets. It's just USB. And one of the first things I typically do on any cruise is set up a charging station with this where I'm able to charge every device we bring with us on our travels. Between this and portable battery packs, these are two of the most essential items we bring not just on Alaskan cruises, but every cruise we take. All right, so we've talked all about the things that you need to make sure you bring with you, but let's talk about a few things that people often bring that a lot of times aren't really necessary. Ponchos sound like a smart Alaska backup, and honestly, I used to always bring them. But what I've found after numerous trips is they're just not worth the hassle. They flap around in the wind, they don't seal well, and once things get even slightly breezy, they're more annoying than helpful. Even worse though, when you do use them and the rain stops, when it's time to put them back in your bag, they get everything else soaked and they never fold up as neatly as when you first got them. When you've already got a proper waterproof jacket and pants, ponchos just end up sitting in your suitcase, taking up space you could have used for something that actually gets worn. Remember that thing that I told you everybody packs but nobody ever really needs? Well, that would be heavy sweaters. They're one of those things that you think you're going to need because of how cold it's going to be in Alaska, but they take up a ton of space, they don't layer well, and once they get damp, they're uncomfortable the rest of the day. So I've learned it's better to leave the bulky stuff at home and rely on merino wool sweaters instead, like we talked about a moment ago. They're warmer for the weight, way easier to layer, and they're far more versatile. One or two good merino pieces will do more for you than a suitcase full of heavy sweaters. Jeans seem like a good idea when you're packing, but they fall apart once you actually wear them in Alaska. As soon as they get wet, they stay wet, feel heavy, and become uncomfortable fast, and they're slow to dry and don't handle mist, drizzle, or boat spray very well. After one outing, most people realize they're not great for a wet, changing environment and wish they'd brought something better suited for wet conditions. There's one other thing we should probably talk about. Alaska has a way of reminding you when something small is missing. These aren't necessarily things you notice right away, but when conditions shift, you feel it fast. When it's windy or just plain cold, a good neck gaiter makes a bigger difference than you'd expect. It keeps your neck warm, blocks wind from slipping down your jacket. When it gets really chilly, you can pull it up over your face or ears for extra protection. It's more comfortable than a scarf, takes up almost no space in your bag, and it's one of those things I end up using far more than I even planned to. Glacier viewing days alone make it worth packing. Cold hands can turn a great Alaska moment into a miserable one fast, and it's not just the temperature, it's the wind and moisture that sneak up on you, and that's why I always bring waterproof gloves. These keep your hands warm and dry on boats, hikes, or when you're spending your time on deck. You don't need bulky ski gloves, just something lightweight, insulated, and waterproof. What I especially love about these is they also have touchscreen fingertips, so I can still take pictures on my phone or pull up GPS without taking my gloves off. It's an easy thing to forget when packing until you're gripping a cold railing wishing you hadn't. I know I've talked a lot about merino wool, but it's that important in Alaska. And a merino wool beanie is another small thing that pulls more weight than you'd expect there. When wind picks up or temperatures drop, keeping your head warm makes everything else feel more manageable, and merino wool works especially well here because it stays warm even if it gets a little damp. It's lightweight, easy to stuff into a pocket, and comfortable enough to keep on as conditions change without feeling stuffy or overkill. This is one of those items you'll put on quickly and be grateful you didn't forget to bring it along. Mosquitoes in Alaska are no joke. They're bigger, more aggressive, and somehow always show up when you least expect them. If you're heading anywhere near water or trees, which is unavoidable in Alaska, bug spray isn't optional. I'm not going to pretend I know the science behind what works best, but this is what we usually bring, and it's worked really well for us. But whatever brand you like is fine, just don't skip it. When they start swarming, you're either the person who planned ahead or the one everyone else is trying to stand next to. Most Alaska cruises are pretty smooth until they're not. Certain stretches hit open water, and depending on the route, things can get choppy fast. And even people who never get motion sick can be caught off guard. There's plenty of options, from medications to ginger or pressure bands or those little things you put behind your ears. But I've had good luck with Ematerm, which takes a more active approach than pressure bands and costs about half as much as a more popular version that does the same exact thing. The key here, though, is have something with you before you need it, because once the seasickness hits you, it's already too late. So by now, your suitcase might be looking a little full, and your brain probably is too. But that's the thing about Alaska. It's not just a vacation, it's an adventure. And the more prepared you are, the better it gets. But here's the bad news. If all you do is pack well, you're only halfway there. Alaska cruises are stunning, but they're also crowded, unpredictable, and full of curveballs. The weather shifts fast and excursions get canceled, and if you don't know how to plan around it, you end up cold, frustrated, and watching whales from behind someone's iPad. But the good news? That's exactly what my next video covers. In it, I'll walk you through the biggest Alaska cruise mistakes people make and how to avoid them entirely. So once you're packed, click that video next. I'll show you how to get the best views without sleeping in the observation lounge, how to prep for excursions like a pro, and the one shift that completely changed the way we experienced our cruise, even when things didn't go as planned. I'll see you over there. If you're ready, I am. Let's go.